Hi, this is Keith Schweigert here with your 2-minute drill for the District 3 Quad A football game between Wilson and Elizabethtown. Wilson comes into the game on a serious roll. They went 10-0 in the regular season. They outscored their opponents 420-72 on their way to the LL League Section 1 title. During that run, they incorporated the mercy rule in 7 out of their 10 victories and 6 out of their 7 Section 1 wins, the only exception being last week when they beat Warwick 24-0. Wilson is by far the best team in the Lancaster-Lebanon League. They got the top defense in the league. They only give up 170 yards a game. On offense, they're decent, if not spectacular. They have a good ground game led by Zach Groff. He has 955 yards and 15 touchdowns on 112 attempts. Their fullback is Dylan Stopper, the latest in a long line of Stopper brothers at Wilson. He has 428 yards on 60 carries. He's also scored 15 touchdowns. Quarterback is Steve Huber. He's a senior, battled some injuries early in the year. He's completed about 50% of his passes, 774 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's a pretty imposing lineup going up against Elizabethtown. The Bears had a decent run in Section 2 this year. They finished 6-4. They lost to Lebanon in Week 10, and that was a costly loss for them because it knocked them all the way down to the 16 seed and earned them the right to take on Wilson in the first round. But E-Town has an offense that can challenge Wilson. They have a good 3-headed rushing attack. Conrad Heisey, Mitch Weidman, and Shane Rosenberry. Heisey's the best of the bunch. He has 873 yards, 9 touchdowns. Weidman has a little over 600 yards on 93 attempts, and Rosenberry 565 yards on 108 carries. They've combined for 26 touchdowns for E-Town. E-Town can also throw the ball a little bit. Quarterback Kyle McNeil is a 1,000-yard passer, 14 touchdowns. He's been picked off 10 times. That could be bad news because Wilson's defense generates a lot of turnovers. Keys to the game for Wilson. They've got to shut down Elizabethtown's ground attack. That's priority number 1 for them. Hasn't been much of a problem for them during the season. Wilson really doesn't give up a lot on the ground at all, but they really need to stop E-Town on Friday night. They got to win the game at the line of scrimmage. Also hasn't been a problem for them all year. And probably the number 1 key is to get up on E-Town early. E-Town has to be wondering how they can stack up to Wilson in this game. The Bulldogs have made a habit of just grinding opponents into the ground early. They use that defense to generate short fields and score defensive touchdowns. If those things happen against E-Town, this one could be over quick. For Elizabethtown, don't be intimidated. You're a playoff team. Wilson's just 11 guys out there like anybody else. They're talented, but it's not impossible. For E-Town, they got to establish that offense early. They got to get the ball moving on the ground. They can't afford to be one-dimensional and just put it in McNeil's hands. They got to run the ball. And also the third key is they got to avoid turnovers and limit their mistakes. If they do that, they could stay in it, but it's going to be a tall order for them. I'm predicting that Wilson wins this game in pretty impressive fashion on their way to a possible berth in the district finals.